Understanding what tools you have and when to use them in your language classroom is one of the things that make you a good language teacher. And there is no one approach that works 100% of the time to every single student and lesson. So you should have an array of strategies at your disposal to use in various lessons. Today we're going to be looking specifically at the strategy of reading. Reading aloud to children has enormous benefits, and especially in the language learning classroom, this is an opportunity to hone a child's listening and comprehension skills. What's important about reading is the choice of book, making sure that the story is graded at the right level, piques the interest of the children, and is appropriately challenging. It's also very important that it's theme specific. You will have already taught the vocabulary throughout the week in a class, and you use the story to expand their understanding of the vocabulary in context. The goal is not for the children to understand everything in the story. Similar to a conversation, you want the child to be able to understand just enough to get the gist of what the storyteller or the speaker is saying. Just enough to be able to respond appropriately, because that is two-sided communication. We highly recommend the use of puppets, visual aids, and even character masks. We really encourage teachers to read aloud with enthusiasm, adding extra visuals, changing the pace and tone of your voice, changing the voices according to the different characters. Give as many clues when you are telling the story for the child to be able to understand fully. And where you have not been able to find or source an appropriate book at the appropriate level, we highly recommend that you make them yourself. Although the Masifunde series, as well as the Spot On readers, seem to be appropriately leveled with interesting themes. The idea is that you read a small section of text and then ask questions or probe for understanding. Similar to a listening comprehension, ask simple sentences. The Masifunde books in particular always have questions at the end of each section. You can choose to ask these of your students to see who has properly understood. If you are making your own books, we highly suggest that you stick to one grammar structure or one repeated sentence throughout the book. Here we created a story about farm animals, and the sentence construction that we used throughout the book was always the same. Imuphi umsindo owenziwa imbuzi. The question is always the sound that the animal makes. Imuphi umsindo owenziwa imbongolo. The question is always the sound that the animal makes. The great thing about stories is that children love to hear them over and over and over again. And so you are getting sufficient repetition of the vocabulary that you are trying to teach through reading the same stories or the same themed readers over and over again. Make reading time a regular part of your language classroom, and you'll see the improvement it makes on a child's listening and comprehension skills.